Well, goodness, thank you all so much for letting me join the party here. Look, I'm John Hammond. For my day job, I work at a company called Huntress. We do a lot of managed security, so chasing hackers, stopping malware, trying to do that blue team defense kind of thing. Hey, locking down computers and making sure they're safe and secure. When I can fit it in, the extracurricular and other ventures that I work with, I have this YouTube channel where I showcase a whole lot of cybersecurity education between capture the flag or malware analysis or dumpster diving in the dark web. Just fun, cool, crazy computer stuff.
Looking back at your 15 plus years in offensive security, what was the biggest defining moment in your career?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I don't mean to fall down the rabbit hole too much, but when I was kind of just getting started, I was attending the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, so one of the military institutions like Annapolis or West Point, and there was a whole competition. There was an event. There was a game that was going on that was called at the time Cyber Stakes, and I didn't realize it. Like I didn't know that that was a capture the flag, but as a freshman or what they call a swab, hey, the first like new indoctrinees into that military training program, you have to like stand at the position of attention. You have to square all your corners, stay at like the edge when you walk down the stairwell. But I remember waking up super early, and maybe this is silly. It's not all on the keyboard, but it was just in the moment, squaring down the stairs. I was just so excited because like, hey, this is a really cool opportunity to work with people like, other branches of the military, other, hey, school, university, college folks, just people that are passionate about this thing for cybersecurity. It's like, man, this is it. This is the mission. This is what feels like really fulfilling work to make the whole world, make the internet safer. And that was a very fulfilling and surreal moment. I guess I'll never forget. 3 o'clock in the morning, squaring down the stairs, knowing like, all right, let's do cybersecurity. Let's take it for real.
Anyway, when making challenges for competitions like picoCTF, how do you strike the balance between difficulty and educational value?
Yeah, great question. And picoCTF has always been like a dear love in my mind. I think you all do an incredible job at making, hey, a challenge or kind of a gradient in difficulty that will let you or a newcomer or a beginner or someone that's just kind of dipping their toes in the water on this whole cybersecurity thing to, be able to solve the puzzle on their own. Like they're understanding, I know this can go here. I can see how the breadcrumbs kind of all come together. There's enough that will hold your hand as you're just getting started, and then kind of, add a twist or add a little something new and some gimmick that you get to learn from. And that's really cool. Like that's always just an awesome thing where there's just enough guidance and guardrails to put you in the right direction, and then enough to let you go and let you run and let you do what you want to do for your own learning and for your own understanding. So I think you all have cracked the code. picoCTF does a stellar job.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the shout out. And I really like how Pico gamifies the whole experience too.
Totally.
Sometimes I think people believe that cybersecurity is just all coding or it's just all Linux command line, but it's really more than that.
Oh yeah. No, there is so much to it. It is a huge field, and there's always a lot to dig into. Like if folks are interested in more of the web applications, that's a whole category, kind of in like a Jeopardy style capture the flag, or a lot of that low level, reverse engineering, binary exploitation. I know, hey, that's a whole nother rabbit hole, but an awesome thing to dive into. And then you've got cloud, you've got, Kubernetes, whatever buzzword bingo we could do, but there's just so much out there.
And John, how do you customize walkthroughs for learners with different skills levels?
Ooh. Well, so yeah, over on YouTube, I hope I do a decent job and showcasing and really trying to, hey, get all the visuals presented to someone watching so that they can see it, like really genuinely see it. I think that's one of the best ways to learn is, hey, getting a chance to sort of play along and to interact and to watch as it happens and even play with it in their own lab environment or their own challenge or their own way to interact with it. But it's exactly that, just kind of as you mentioned, hey, how can I show and not just tell? So while I'm talking through or narrating and sort of commenting, oh, here's a problem that we're solving, I'll try to go through each and everything. And whenever there's a new word or like a new acronym or like, oh, something that there isn't a ton of context for, because obviously we in cybersecurity use a ton of acronyms. Like, oh, what is this ASLR thing? Or how come you're talking about this AMSI or whatever? So just throwing in a quick nugget as an explaining, as an understanding of, oh, background context, that's the anti-malware scan interface. That's the address space layout randomization. They use that to map memory for binaries, blah, 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 blah. Anything that we can just, throw in the quick explanation, I really think, and I hope that helps, hey, yeah, any skill level, whether you're familiar with it or not, to be able to follow along and tackle some of those in walkthroughs.
Right. And in fact, just to demonstrate, I watched your video on Russian hackers using the dark web to exchange these different kinds of, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was so interesting how you went into it and how they tried to exchange these like cyber weapons, and some were so obvious. And you really did a wonderful job with explaining it and making it entertaining as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And again, I feel like that's a whole nother world is, what are the cyber criminals chatting about? What's on their mind? What are they discussing? Either the dark web or ransomware forums, blah, blah, blah. It's funny because I think in my mind, that is where you see the threshold or sort of the change from like, what we can do either in the schoolhouse or in the lab or, playing a capture the flag, those translate so well to real world security. I think a lot of folks tend to poo poo or water down like capture the flag because they'll say it's a game, it's a toy, it's a little puzzle, but it's not that at all. Like that's absolutely training and preparations and just giving you the skill set to do this for real in the real world, in the real job when there are real threats, and it's not a game.
Right. And like you said, John, so much of it is about preparations, reconnaissance, as well as technology. It's really so much more than just technical. You need to be able to blend the technical with this sort of more, I would say, psychological aspect of cybersecurity.
And that's, I think, really another good point. When we start to zoom out, and it's not always the ones and zeros, it's not always elite code or hands-on keyboard stuff. It's real people that you're working with, collaborating with, your team members, your peers, and your colleagues. And you get that in a capture the flag environment for sure. But even bringing it to leadership or trying to let management know or the key stakeholders as to, what's really going on in the whole cybersecurity landscape? People are screaming and shouting about some new vulnerability or some new exploit that hits the streets. When you've got people asking like, hey, does that affect us? Should we be worried? What should we be doing? That way you get to have not only the technical chops, but even like the interpersonal skills to communicate and say like, hey, actually, we don't have that in our environment, or we do, but under this conditions, under this circumstance, this scenario, not something that we need to worry about, blah, blah, blah. But all of that comes to life from, you being in the weeds, playing the game, getting a chance to practice, getting a chance to prepare. So I feel like I sound like a broken record, but I absolutely recommend a whole lot of that capture the flag learning to everyone and anyone interested.
How do you structure your YouTube programming and CTF tutorials and deep dive videos to keep viewers engaged and ensure knowledge retention?
Well, truth be told, maybe I'm falling on my sword a little bit, but I really just tend to chase stuff that I think is interesting, stuff that I think is fun, that I think is cool. So you can see like this crazy trajectory of my YouTube channel. It started with some programming tutorials or capture the flag, and then moved on to malware, and then moved on some of that dark web stuff here and there, a little bit all over the place. So that's been the fun for me and my own growth and my own learning. But when it comes to, structuring the material and the content of the video, it's really interesting because there is the algorithm or whatever social media sort of meta where, oh, you want to hyper optimize, that high intensity editing and hey, attention grabbing sort of hook and all this. But I feel like I tend to stray away from that because look, I do want this to be educational. I want it to be something that folks can learn from. So all those like no-nos, all the things that they say you should not do in a YouTube video, like repeating yourself, like saying the same thing again, oh, that detracts from a viewer experience. But in the case of like education rather than entertainment, you totally want to repeat yourself. You want to emphasize, you want to reiterate, like, hey, this is the trigger. This is why the payload works because of one thing or another. So it's still being able to reinforce, and I hope that adds to just what you mentioned there, retain a lot of the info.
Absolutely. And I think the audience can definitely tell when someone's being authentic or not. And John, you were able to crack the code, so to say.
Well, thank you.
What is your approach to transforming a complex security topic into clear, concise content? And what was the result?
That's another super good question because, well, you have to boil things down to just what is a human attention span, right? So even in a silly YouTube video, like that could be maybe 5 minutes or 10. I feel like I kind of push the envelope when we get to 15 or 20 minutes or 30-minute thing. That's sometimes a little bit long for what folks will sit down to watch a video or learn something for lunch, right? But you all know, and I'm sure you especially, is like, look, when you're learning a lot of this stuff, these are usually in 8-hour lectures for a day across a whole week or semester or half a year, and you've got a like ginormous textbook. So can I grab just a sliver of that? Can I get a kind of a little piece or component that makes for a cool show? Like it makes for a fun visual demo. And then I want to, okay, can I extract that piece and then minimize it and get all those tiny parts to make this fit into a 10, 15, or 20-minute little demo, little showcase. But if I can keep doing that over and over and over again, and then hopefully stack a lot of those concepts, that's, I hope, a really good way to, break down what could be a big, complicated subject or some complex concept, but still make it approachable and exciting and fun.
Making it entertaining, making it engaging, as well as making it concise really hammers in the key concepts in someone's mind.
Thank you. Sweet.
Yeah. John, can you describe a research project where you uncovered a novel exploit or vulnerability? What was your methodology and outcome?
Ooh, cool. Well, let me say straight up, I feel like a lot of the stuff that I tend to have to chase and an ambulance chasing is kind of the silly, fun word with it, is because whenever we do see something new flying out of the sky, or hackers and threat actors are exploiting or beating up some vulnerability, they tend to call that sometimes a 0 day, when it's new, groundbreaking, hey, the world's never seen it before kind of thing. And the other case, they'll call it an N day, like the letter N, as if it's a variable in some algebra math equation, because it could have been however much time, but there either is or isn't a patch yet or available. Hey, folks can't mitigate it, or it's known because, threat actors are already exploiting this and taking advantage of it in the wild. I'll be the first to admit, hey, I tend to chase a lot of those N days, and less so the 0 days, totally new, groundbreaking stuff. But it's still kind of crazy because then, hey, you've got other companies, business owners, people, organizations, schools, folks that are screaming and shouting like, are we affected? What does it look like? How can we understand more? And not to get too nerdy, forgive me, but there was one that we were digging into just recently, and I'm still trying to get the blog post and write-up available. Hey, get some of the info out and about. There was an FTP server, so like file transfer back and forth, that had anonymous login, as you'd expect with like FTP, usually enabled by default. But even with like a regular legitimate credential or username or password to log in, you could do some like weird, shady stuff. If you threw in a null byte or try to break and tamper with your username as you would log in, you actually get to inject code into like the session cookie. And I know that sounds super weird for a lot of folks that might be tracking more of that scene, but because that session or that cache data gets stored on disk and then evaluated and interpreted and even serialized is the right word for us nerds and geeks. Oh, they could totally turn that into like remote code execution. It would get processed and parsed as Lua, and then hey, just point and shoot. Even with an anonymous login, no access, no credentials, you could still fire up and run whatever commands or payloads or malware, or hey, your imagination can run wild with what you could do with that computer, that server out on the internet. So it's those opportunities we say, oh, there was a bug that was overlooked for so long, but now it's totally being weaponized. How can we get out in front of it? How can we spread the word and show people the real impact of this?
When emulating advanced persistent threats for red team exercises, what tactics are the most challenging for defenders?
Ooh. So cool, fun thing when we get into that APT world, like the advanced persistent threat kind of thing. Usually, that really means they want to be stealthy. They want to hide. They want to fly under the radar. So any of the big, loud, exploit some vulnerability, known CVE, generate all these logs and artifacts and indicators of compromise. Well, that's counterintuitive for what they want to do for their APT operations. So if we're emulating that and trying to act as the adversary, put our hacker hat on, we're thinking, how can we really be low and slow? How can we leave as little fingerprints behind, or if any, even at all? Can we be super duper stealthy? That's a tough nut to crack. But even on the defender, on the EDR end side, like the blue teamers, the security administrators, system admins, and network folks that are tracking these things, or security operations center, you want to have that visibility, but you still need to know what you can see. And then you need to actually be looking. You need to look at those logs, those artifacts, and see what telemetry can we pull back. And you really get into, that splitting hairs, I know, but that's that cat and mouse game. That's what they say. Oh, security is a game of cat and mouse. Defenders, attackers doing one thing or another, and then trying to innovate and do something else that might fly under the radar.
Right, and coming back full circle, John, it's really about, like we said, the psychology part, this game of cat and mouse. And I often feel that defenders are actually behind the game in terms of attackers. Attackers don't have to follow any rules, whereas defenders, we have to follow some sort of ethical conduct, especially in terms of not going to the gray or black area. So it can be really challenging.
It's easy to say, that the hacker, the red team, the penetration tester, like their work is sexy. It's too cool. There's a lot of fun. Hijinks, stuff we get to see and sort of glamorize in media, right? And you're totally right in that the red team always wins. Like the hacker always breaks in one way or another if they're motivated, if they put in the time for it. And there's this saying, the attacker only needs to be right once, when the defenders have to be right 1,000 times or 10,000 times. But I'll put a little like asterisk or like a disclaimer on that, a little footnote, because hey, if you're the defender, you get a home field advantage once the attacker's like on your turf. Say they get initial access. Okay, say they've got a foothold in your environment. Look, now it's on you. Like they are in your environment. So if you super tune it up, if you, get that telemetry, get that logging, get that visibility or auditing, you've got security controls, defensive depth, then the ball's in your court. And you get to say, look, it's not just the attacker that always needs to be right once. It's the defender. The defender only needs to be right once, because if I can just see that one breadcrumb, that one artifact, that one indicator of compromise, well, then there's something bad there. Keep investigating, keep analyzing. That's good work too. Don't count yourself out of the fight.
Right. And I really like how you put a spin on it. I didn't think of it that way. So thanks for that insight, John. In your experience, how has the offensive security landscape evolved over the past 5 years, and where do you see it heading?
Oh, forgive me. I know I guess I'll probably have to dance with some of the buzzwords here, but obviously, I think a lot of the security conversation, and for red teamers or for penetration testers or for hacking and offensive securities particularly, has moved to different places. And I say that by, I mean, okay, we started with the endpoint, the computer, the device itself, and everyone was worried about, oh, we'll put a bunch of these firewalls around so we can lock down the castle kind of thing, protect the perimeter. And that worked for a little bit until phishing kind of caught wind, and we'll get some social engineering attacks to get our foot in the door. And then we moved on and said, oh, okay, we should be using like an EDR solution. And okay, now they do some other clever tricks where you bring your own vulnerable driver, or they exploit something native and inherent to the land and the environment. And then folks say, well, we don't always want to be using these on-premise endpoint devices anymore. We got to move to the cloud. And you've got the conversations of Azure, GCP, blah, blah, blah. But now hackers and red teamers, pen testers, all these folks are thinking, like, okay, well, now I don't even need malware. We can do some fileless attacks and swing from one service to the next, and there's no malware needed because it's all misconfigurations or trust from online environments. And now, yeah, I know everyone is chatting about AI, artificial intelligence, blah, blah, blah. But that's still a whole new playing field. That's still something we got to have that security scrutiny there. It's funny. I keep thinking, hey, we still have the same core problem. We just keep moving it around and putting it in different places.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you, John. There's so many different new technologies such as IoT and AI.
Yeah.
Even if the attackers use AI hallucinates from time to time. It may give you secure or insecure code generated. It may not even know exactly what you're talking about. So I think it complicates the offensive and defensive security as well.
That's a whole nother can of worms, without a doubt. But I'm glad that it is getting attention. I think I can totally see the momentum, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
What advice would you give to someone looking to pivot to a career in offensive cybersecurity?
Ooh. Thank you for asking. Because look, I feel like I fall down to just a simple, small thing, but it's the most important thing that I tend to think is, hey, if you're interested in this whole cybersecurity thing, if you want to play some capture the flag, if you want to do penetration testing, oh, be a red teamer, or maybe some of the defense, or looking at malware, hey, blue team work here and there. Look, there's so much out there, just as we've already discussed, but like, find the stuff that you really, really like. Find the stuff that you enjoy, find the stuff that you're passionate about. And like, ultimately, you have to make sure that it's fun, because there comes a point, and I'm finding here and where I run into this, and I crash against the wall, because sometimes it just starts to become work. And it can be another obligation. Oh, we got to deal with this. Oh, blah, blah, blah. So absolutely do your darndest to just make sure it is fun, and you want to keep doing it, because that's the way that you can keep doing it. That's the most important thing. Make it fun.
Right. They say if you enjoy what you like working on, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And
Oh yeah.
cybersecurity is about learning each and every day. It's definitely a field in which you'll obtain new nuggets of knowledge. Yeah, but thank you so much, John. I really appreciate you agreeing to this interview, talking to me, as well as really supporting picoCTF and advancing the cybersecurity field.
Well, thank you. This was quite a treat. It's an honor to hang out with you all. So thank you for letting me be here.